Okay, well, let's be clear. All mass is distribution. All existence is made of particles, so God equals geometry of distribution, which are particles of distribution. And then we discovered that table sugar and hydrochloric acid makes a very weird, varied species of carbon products, especially even fiber. Some kind of fiber. I'm not sure what kind of fiber it is, but I guess it's just fiber. And then up top is a algebra problem that I did, a multi-step algebra problem, because I'm reviewing my algebra right now to make sure that I know how to do basic algebra. Algebra 1, which so far I do, and I'm a quarter of the way through the book, or maybe 1/3, something like that. And I still know how to do algebra, so it's proof right there. As you can see, this is proof. But government claims that they have enough dimensional values of medicine to understand medical conditions in like all circumstances, and doctors assume that those circumstances are actual and that they have every chemical sequencing, and they know every part of the microbiome and how inflammation works genetically. And they're saying they know all of these tons of different variables of like how medicine works for people, given the things that they go through on any given day. And they're saying that we can't just change, that basically we don't evolve very fast, and that, you know, things don't change in our bodies drastically, and actually they do. So at any given time, also there are also what we call countermeasures to illness, and then there are destructive measures to health. And then you got your probiotics and your antibiotics and your nutrition and your anti-cancers, and they're saying they know everything about this, but the truth is that it is not necessarily true for everyone. We are all genetically different, and we cannot all be the same. We don't all work the same. We don't have the same system. We operate differently based on our mode of life and what we think and feel and how our brain wants to feel. Many things that we do are because our brain tells us to. Many illnesses we might have are because we don't eat right, because our brain tells us to, or because society won't let us do what we need to do, or just all kinds of different reasons that we have effects of health and or we don't have effects of health. People are unaware of what really goes into every detail of people's lives. I mean, you would have to actually put them on camera 24/7 to see what the clinical information was. They would honestly have to be locked in a cage. And that just goes to show that they don't do that, so they're not able to see what really goes on and what kind of things are screwing up the medicines, and if they don't even know if the medicines truly work, because there's a thing called what I'm going to call it is diversity. I'm going to call it receptor diversity. We have receptors in our bodies, and sometimes medicine wants to target receptors. So, like, the thing is with that is, like, medicines can target more than one receptor. We are talking about, like, energy here, and molecular content and polymers and things like that. And that basically means that if something has even a slight charge, or a full 1 plus 1 exponential charge, then basically that exponential charge, any kind of charge that you have, it becomes a receptor, and anything can bind to that receptor. It can be blocked. You can block out your receptors. Drinking Coca-Cola, phosphoric acid, smoking cigarettes, doing drugs, alcohol. A lot of things block out the receptors. That's why it makes us ill. And even medicines block out more than the receptors that they say they do. And then, receptors are not always actual. They're kind of a given. And I'll say that medicine doesn't even know all of the technical receptors, per se. But mostly receptors are a challenge of spectrometry and things like that, like X-ray crystallography. It's a challenge of X-ray crystallography to measure cell components three-dimensionally in a graphical type of way, where you can actually see the atoms and you can predict what they might have as charges and things like that. But that's not necessarily has happened yet. It requires a supercomputer or a series of supercomputers and an X-ray crystallography kind of arena. And that arena is vacuum space and a CDC or a CCD camera, and some type of crystal with components where they are extracted from cells, and then you have to calculate them with supercomputers and put them back together based on I think it's up to so many billion atoms per X-ray crystallography, and that's with the fastest supercomputer in the world right now, and that's with a reconfigured supercomputer as a some type of communications device for like an ADC or something like that, where it actually can capacitate the entire amount of sequencing for the X-rays that illuminate or diffract the electron structures of the atoms, and then it has to do this based on a time sequence, and then you do a Fourier transform and extract the data, and it tells you what the atoms are three-dimensionally in the crystal. So basically, if that's predictable, if it is, I'm not going to say I know for sure because I don't, but if that is predictable, then they would have information since about 20 years ago. It's only been 20 years since the late 90s is when they had the capacity to do billions of atoms in a supercomputer. Calculate what that does. Supercomputers have been pretty fast since the late 90s. But they've recently gone up the hill to be in 400 and some odd petaflops per second, and that's a lot. 400 some petaflops, that's a ton. But you might be able to also synchronize these specifically in X-ray crystallography to actually create a channelized camera where you can calculate much more data in sequence per area of camera space. So like you can run that camera in multiple channels instead of just synchronizing it into one big binary. You could run it in channels per supercomputer and then calculate it all out with supercomputers in chunks, and it should be able to calculate like large, not like the entire set of DNA, probably 3 billion bases and whatever other structure that DNA is. You probably could get the supercomputer currently today in 2021 to do that. So yeah, it's tricky, but we're not sure. So if not, we could break it up a little bit smaller, but I'm pretty sure it'll do billions of atoms. But they're claiming, people around me, and I'm with a group called CMHC here in Batesville, Indiana, in the United States, and they're claiming that all these doctors know so much about something that they can't prove. They honestly have no evidence to show anyone. They've never tried to show anyone any evidence, but they're claiming that they know all these dimensional factors or variables in medicine, that they know every circumstance. But I find it kind of funny that I smoke cigarettes and my blood pressure is always perfect, textbook perfect, and I don't seem to have certain problems with smoking. I do have some issues with smoking, but it doesn't prevent me from healing. And some doctors that I've known or heard about have told patients they couldn't do surgery on them because they were smokers and they needed to quit. Well, that's bull. They claim that it hindered the healing process. It doesn't necessarily. Not everyone is hindered by smoking. So I still heal just fine. But the thing is they want to try to lay these claims on people that it doesn't heal to smoke and all this. They want to start claiming all these dimensional lies, that they know everything. They even diagnosed me as being schizophrenic, and I don't have schizophrenia. Basically, my whole issue since I was about 17 to 19 years old was that I had some sort of serious back injury from working on the farm and houses and construction. When I was young, I worked extremely hard, and somehow I think I injured my back. And over the years, I continued to have pain. And at one point when I was 20 years old, I became homeless and I couldn't stand at work. I was working in a factory in Greensburg, Indiana, and I couldn't stand at work any longer. And my family, I was having a lot of family troubles, and I wasn't the guilty party, but my family threw me out of the house just because, for no reason. And basically, I ended up homeless, and I had to come to CMHC in Indiana, in Lawrenceburg, to get help to find a place to live because I didn't have a place to live. And then they decided to diagnose me with schizophrenia for absolutely no reason at all, and it was a lie. Just because I was homeless and having problems with my family, they assumed that I was the guilty party, and it wasn't me. My family was absolutely criminal, and I've always stayed away from my family after I became disabled, but it was my back and being homeless that led me to my disability. That's why I fought what I fought for. But the doctor went about telling everyone that I was schizophrenic, and all these people throughout the years portrayed me as schizophrenic, and I'm not. And they can't seem to find any kind of valid science as to the facts behind why they diagnosed me. They have no evidence of why they think I'm schizophrenic. Just because maybe I had some behavioral issues, but behavioral issues doesn't necessarily mean that you're schizophrenic. It might mean that somebody's hurting you, because there were a lot of people in my life that hurt me. I've been through a lot of stuff, and I actually do, in fact, have what looks like schizophrenia, but it's called post-traumatic stress disorder. And later on, I was diagnosed by a doctor in Greensburg at Centerstone, Indiana. At Greensburg, Indiana, at Centerstone, the doctor diagnosed me with post-traumatic stress disorder. She said, "You're not schizophrenic." She said, you have a lot of problems in your life. And that's how this whole system lied. And one doctor prescribed me a really evil medicine called Abilify. He prescribed me 40 milligrams of it per day, and I almost died when I took the first dose. It was 220 milligram pills, and I basically almost died. And he was a foreign doctor. His name was Dr. Aftab, and he was from North Carolina, and he came to Lawrenceburg for some reason. That's what they told me. And I didn't like this guy from the start. He was definitely weird. And I don't know what happened, but either way, I went back to his office and told him I almost died. I said I urinated all over myself. And I said, "You're going to have to knock this dosage down." So they reduced it down to 20 milligrams and then 10 milligrams. I kept telling them that it was too high. It was making me pass out really bad. And it was extremely toxic. And I couldn't wake up. And I kept telling them to reduce the dosage. And finally, I just told them I don't want it. And I never talked to that doctor ever again. But I never complained at the time because I didn't know who to complain to. And come to find out, the police don't even care if a doctor tries to kill you. I've done my research here recently. I've recorded police on the phone and everything else. And they don't even care if a doctor tries to murder you. They don't even care. They claim they didn't care. They said there was nothing they could do. I told them to investigate CMHC here in Batesville, Indiana, where I'm at now. And they seem like they don't even care. They didn't tell me anything. They just acted like they don't care. And it was a rough ride my whole life. I was molested as a child. I watched my dad beat the living hell out of my mom, and she broke her leg. And I watched my family fight and feud my whole life over drugs and just stupid, crazy stuff. And I had a lot of friends who were into drugs, and at one point I was into drugs, but I gave that all up for the most part, now especially. But I haven't really used drugs in at least, well, I every great once in a while I might do a little bit of beer or drink a drink or something, or every great once in a while I'd hit a joint, but like not really. I hardly ever do drugs. Most of the time I'm constantly sober. So like, and I don't really want any drugs. And but drugs are a part of my life at some point when I was a teenager, and every now and then I would meet people that had drugs, and I would either turn it down, or occasionally I might take a couple puffs off of a joint, or drink a drink or something like that, or get drunk or whatever. But it was occasionally. So I'm not an addict. I'm not addicted. So that's not a problem. The only thing I'm addicted to, besides coffee, is your ordinary old cigarette. But basically, this big story here is crazy, but I've seen it all. I had a friend of mine, one of my old friends, when I was a teenager. He tried to kill me and another one of my friends because he was drunk and high on drugs. He tried to kill us in a vehicle, a little brown Toyota truck, and he wrecked it, and with us in it. And we were sober and we weren't on drugs, but he was, and he wanted to go for a ride, and he went crazy during that ride, and started screaming at the top of his lungs, and he wouldn't slow down, and we were trying to get him to slow down, but we ended up hitting a farmer's drainage ditch at a T in the road in the country, and I think it was a town called New Marion, and we was out in the country basically, and it was a little scary, and we about went through the windshield. The truck was pretty well crunched all up in the front, and the wheel was wobbling and everything, and the steering wheel was bent, and we all about died that night. And that was just one of the horrific events. This guy's the type of guy who doesn't learn, and basically his name was John Oney. And he doesn't learn. He constantly was criminal, getting in trouble, going to jail. He never gave up that bad behavior, and for years he would keep trying to come into my life and try to be my friend and all this. And I really didn't want to talk to him because he always wanted to party and do drugs, and I wanted to end that behavior. And not only that, he would always try and steal my girlfriend away from me, and I just couldn't stand the guy any longer. I just ended it with him. I don't talk to him anymore. And the other guy that was with us, his name was Josh Clowers, and he was my best friend at one point. Josh was, and I ended my relationship with him too, because he was acting like he was out to get me, and he really was, because he got my ex-girlfriend pregnant, and he did some things, and I found out about it, and he really was trying to get me, and he was trying to upset me, piss me off, cheat me, lie to me, steal from me, trying to ruin my life, make me look stupid. And I didn't allow that to happen any longer either. I ended my relationship with him, and I don't want to see these two men ever again. Really, I don't care for who they are, because they don't want to apologize for the things that they've done, and you can't just apologize. You actually got to mean it by living the appropriate life. But I can't live like this. I mean, I've been through all kinds of things. People have stolen from me, busted out the windows in my apartment, robbed me of things in my apartment. People have threatened me, called me names, falsified me, got me arrested. Neighbors would throw things at me at different times when they were drunk and high on drugs. Some other people tried to kill me in a car accident because they were drunk and high on drugs. I've been through it all. You just can't live in today's world and associate with the common poor people, because the poor people, man, they're all corrupt. They're all conspirators. Not all of them, but a lot of them are so corrupt that you can't actually be in their life. You don't want to be around them. And basically the only thing you can do is if they bother you, call the police on them. And I've had to call the police on people several times. And I wised up when I was young. I learned a lot of lessons. And I became a man at a young age. I became interested in the Holy Bible, which I'm no longer interested in the Holy Bible, but now my whole thing is science and medicine and all that, quantum physics, machinery. I ended up learning how to do a lot in science, and I know how to do a lot in life, so I'm a pretty smart guy, and I learned how to do a lot of things in my lifetime because I work pretty hard on a daily basis to figure things out. I'm a computer programmer. I've worked on all kinds of different cars. I've built houses. I've farmed. I've done a lot of farming. I was taught how to farm. I learned how to train rabbit dogs and coon dogs. I learned how to shoot guns. I know how to take apart guns and put them back together. I know how to refurbish guns. I learned how to live off the land. I also later on studied the whole bulk for 8 years, the whole bulk of physics, chemistry, and biology and medicine. And I took a course in college that I didn't complete, but I did really well, 70% of anatomy and physiology. And then I studied electronics. I know how electronics work really well. Not really well, somewhat. I pretty well understand the whole fundamental principle behind electronics and all their components. But, I might need some more details on that, but I generally know how they work. I went to college for computer information technology for a year and a half. I didn't graduate because I had too many problems. And then along came my son, which was really stressful because the mother of my son broke up with me, and we got into a big argument, and it was kind of ugly for a little bit. I never hit her or abused her, but I said a lot of bullshit to her, and it was a bad thing, and I had to take her to court just so I could see my son every Monday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon until 7 or 6:30. And I'm doing the best that I can do right now, and I have a disability in my spine. I have kyphosis, scoliosis, hardcore degenerative disc disease, and a little bit of arthritis. And all of that together is pretty well, has destroyed, with all the things I've been through, has pretty well destroyed my life. And I have a pretty deep depression and can't exercise. I'm constantly having troubles with my back. And I'm constantly having troubles with my back. And it causes pain all over my body. It even causes lazy bowel syndrome. And it's been really hard doing what I've been living my life. And I have a fatigue syndrome problem. My muscles hurt a lot. And I'm overweight. I'm almost 300 pounds. And I once was about 200. I've gained 100 pounds in the last few years. I'm trying to manage my weight now. I'm trying to live more so on a more plant-oriented diet. I'm trying to eat less meat, but it doesn't always work out. But I'm poor, so sometimes I eat meat, but I eat things that aren't necessarily good for me sometimes. But I'm learning how to go more toward vegetables and stuff like that. my life's starting to pick up. Hopefully, I can meet with this new doctor, this orthopedic doctor, and he tells me the right things I want to hear, but he might not. He might deny me because my health isn't perfect, but I don't think that he should. I need this orthopedic doctor to fix my spine, and him and a surgeon, of course, and his name is Dr. Tremba, and I'm not sure what he's going to say because I haven't met with him yet, but I need him to say, all right, let's do this, because I've suffered for a really long time. I've been in pain for years, and I desperately need my life back, and I need to be able to move around again, and instead of sit on the couch 24/7, wishing that I could move. But like, I don't know. That's where I'm at today in 2021. This is July 26th, Monday, 11 p.m. And it's been a rough ride my whole life, and I just can't take it anymore. I need a break. And this is my video on the majority of what I've been through. I've seen so much hell in my life. Everything in the world, it seems to be mostly just hell. It doesn't make sense, and it seems like they want to try to control everything you do, and if they're not doing that, they're trying to hurt you, and if they're not doing that, then they don't really care about you at all. And if they're not doing that, then they don't exist, or they're dying off and you really don't want them to. It's just so much problems in the world. I mean, I'm losing my family. I have no family to talk to except my mom and my little son. I have a best friend named Karen Kidd, and she's been my friend for 7 years, and I love her. And my caseworker, Jill, I don't always see eye to eye with her, and there have been several times we've gotten into arguments, but I mean, I like who she is. I think she's mostly a good person, Jill is, and Jill Hoke Burkle, and she's mostly a good person, but sometimes I think she likes to follow the in crowd, and she can't necessarily think for herself. And I really see through some of the things that she believes, and it really gets on my nerves that she always has to say things. And I just recently proved her wrong about several things that she had said, and she's too stubborn to see that I proved her wrong and that she lied to me. And my caseworker is giving me a little bit of grief because she wants me to believe what those doctors believe, and they hacked the CMHC computer system, and she told me that a professional checked their system and said it was unhackable, basically, that it was all high tech and it was good. Well, then they got hacked after she told me that. And then I just rubbed it in her face on the phone yesterday, and there's all kinds of things that they've done wrong, and they think that they're top notch and they got everything right, but they don't. It's two-dimensional, and medicine's a very difficult thing. Science is difficult. There are different ways to go about different things, and I'm tired of people thinking that they're so right about everything, and they just haven't proven it. They can't prove it, and it just goes to show that they can't prove it. So, I mean, it's obvious that their intent is to do well, but they lie about it, and it ain't true, and then you tell them about it, and they want to deny it. So it's it's bad. They're in denial. A lot of people are in denial in the world, and for different reasons, for different subjects. This world is a hellish place to live in, and it plays a huge demon in your mind, and it just sucks, man. If it ain't one thing, it's another. One thing after another. It's hard. So I'm gonna let it go at that. And thanks for listening to my video. And I will probably make another one someday in the future. Bye.